Hey, down here. Hi. So, Evan and I are pretty broke, and we wanted to do a top 10 games of the year list, but, you know, we can't really afford $60 games every week. So instead, we encapsulated all the games that we played this year and chose our top 3 and bottom 3. Throughout the episode, you'll see a scroll of all the games that we played, just so that you have a frame of reference. Keep in mind that these are all opinions, and free to have your own. If you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go back looking for spare quarters under the couch.
My bottom number 3 was Dishonored 2. It's definitely probably my least favorite game that's been developed primarily by Arcane Studios, which is actually like one of my favorite developers, which was a shame because for a series and a development house that thrives so much on like allowing the player to play their way, it ended up bottlenecking me into a lot of insta-kill moments, which was really frustrating for me. It definitely built the world, but it didn't do it in a way that was conducive with the first game like I was expecting.
Not to say that you were scraping the bottom of the barrel for this third pick, but you don't seek out terrible games like I do. So I feel like Dishonored 2, while it wasn't your flavor and it didn't live up to the second one, is only in your bottom 3 because you ran out of options.
Right, I don't finish games that I don't like, with a couple exceptions this year, apparently.
So my bottom third was the game Haze. Now, before anyone goes and says, oh, you should have known that was a bad game, I did know that was a bad game. I've been pleasantly surprised by some games that are bad, but I have somewhat of a fun time. The marketing for this likes to tout itself as a Halo killer, which it doesn't really even have that many adjacent ideas as Halo does. The other problem I have is all the marketing materials, all the reviewers give away the big plot twist. This game would have been cool if you could have gone into it perfectly blind, not knowing what you were gonna do, because it goes from killing the natives as like this oppressive colonization force to being one of the natives. And you, as the colonizing force, you have like an upper hand, but then when you become the natives, you have the lower hand. And it doesn't feel like that at all. The gameplay doesn't look at the story for mechanics. And the problem I have, and the reason why it's number 3 on the list, is it has, the story has so much room to do that. And it just kind of pisses me off. While it's not the worst I've played this year, it definitely ranks as one of the games with most potential that just kind of ruined it, and thus they are a bad game.
You know, I was actually kind of surprised to see this on your list, not because I thought Haze was good or anything, but just because you've been talking about it for so long, I thought you'd already played it.
It's my PSN profile.
You're right, exactly.
Like, I've been so excited for this game when I've had it for so long. I'm glad to have it out of my backlog, but I don't know. It's not a game that I'll play again.
Yeah. That's kind of a shame. So right up here with like the worst takes possible that we could ever have is Evan just coming for objectively good games here. My bottom 2 that I played this year was God of War, the most recent one. It's not a bad game at all, but I feel that it tries to be like an everything game for everyone. Like it's trying to be a big budget PlayStation exclusive like Uncharted. It's trying to be a semi-open world exploration game, Metroidvania type thing. It's trying to be this brutal brawler that the franchise was, and it's trying to be like this immensely personal story. And sure, it does those things better than others, but it ends up doing none of them extremely well for me. I like the characters, but I feel like a lot of the larger moments for them are met kind of flatly after the first 10 or so hours, which is a problem because the game goes on for upwards of 20, and so it ends up dragging on a lot more. I think the combat's really interesting, but then it just keeps being kind of samey, and even when it introduces more stuff, very quickly that kind of combat gets boring as well.
I'm kind of sad to see this on your list. I just got that one. I haven't finished the God of War series. Hell, I've only gotten like 2 hours into this first one. You didn't play any of the other God of Wars, did you?
I played Ghost of Sparta, I think it was, on PSP, and that's about it. I mean, I don't know if this franchise is even for me, but what I went into it expecting and like hearing all of the praise, it couldn't really live up to what I was expecting by any means.
My second to worst game is Killzone 1. Like, maybe I should have played this in its heyday, I might have liked it then. But in 2019, it's just buried by newer innovations. The aesthetics are hard to look at. The dialogue's awful. There's so little precision with these weapons that I feel like I have Stormtrooper syndrome. And I've played the remastered version. Like, this wasn't like the PS2 version. This was on the PS3. They had time to fix this game, and they didn't. It makes me mad. Overall, the story's pretty decent. It's kind of interesting, but the gameplay's not even worth it. Killzone 2 is actually really good. I've played a little bit of it, and it just throws out a lot of the bad stuff. I'm not gonna hold a lot of the issues against that. I'm just saying that I played it in the wrong era, and that Killzone 2 came in really strongly. It's borderline unplayable.
Speaking of borderline unplayable, my number
What a
one
segue.
was Wolfenstein: The New Colossus, which I don't know if it's me, I don't know if it's you, I don't know if it's BJ Blazkowicz, but something is wrong with that game, and I can't figure out what. I've heard the criticism that this game is like an action hero gameplay with a stealth hero health bar, and I just feel like I'm immediately dying in this game through waves of like endlessly responding enemies. And this is id, or I guess Machine Games, but the same kind of mentality that id was having with Doom, and so I was expecting that kind of feel. And I'd played New Colossus and liked it, but this one just seemed to like exacerbate all of my problems that I had with the New Order and just make it so much worse. The story's fine, I guess, but like in an effort to be commercial, it really kind of shies away from more hard-hitting points and instead just like kind of brushes issues aside. It's certainly thought-provoking, it's certainly competent from a story standpoint, but it's not really doing enough to make it feel relevant and pointed in a way that I was expecting. Which isn't to say that it should be like this hyper-political thing, but like still, it could have done a lot more with its topic.
I gotta say, I was pretty sad to see most of the initial reactions to New Colossus, because I liked New Order in its time. I really want to like New Colossus, and at some point I'll still end up playing it because I like the feel of these games, and I know that New Colossus doesn't achieve that feel as much as New Order did. I'd probably buy this game for $5 if I could find it in the bargain bin. I still need to beat Wolfenstein 2009, so like...
You gotta do Return to Castle Wolfenstein first, come on.
Absolutely not. Anyway, let's go from the wonderful year of 2009 and talk about Prey 2006. This game is sort of a generic FPS made by the same folks as Duke Nukem, and it really shows. The games are practically identical, but this one just seems a little bit worse. When I booted this game up, I was really excited to see that I get to play as a Native American man instead of generic white dude 453, but the race cliches start to roll in pretty fast and just makes this game an easy one to skip. If you go into this game with Prey 2016 in mind, like I did, you are going to have the worst of times.
Well, instead of just staying negative the whole time, why don't we talk about our top games from 2019, including my number 3 top game that I finished in 2019, which was Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, the only Metal Gear Solid game I've ever played, from a series that I previously thought was not for me. I don't really like a lot of stealth games, but I figured that maybe Metal Gear Solid would really like crack that open for me. I know I've mentioned that I like Dishonored and stuff, but I've never really gone out of my way to find them. People said that this was a good place to start, so I kind of bumped it down a little bit on the difficulty because I'm bad at video games despite talking about them once a week. It had everything goofy that I loved about like early Bond films while still being earnest and thought-provoking and really questioning nationalism and like weird 1960s political ideologies in a way that Wolfenstein New Colossus absolutely wasn't gonna do. Now that I think about it, they're kind of two sides of the same coin, but one side's the burnt one that Harvey Dent has. You know what I mean. But
not even gonna finish that analogy. I get you.
No. Also, like, all of the gameplay is rooted in you constantly being in a state of consumption. And so, like, if you're swimming, your stamina comes down, you have to eat food, you have to do all of these things. Like, if you shoot your gun with the silencer on, your silencer decays. And it's all of these little things that add up to an experience where you're constantly moving towards entropy in a really, really cool way. So,
ooh, did you sell that review to IGN? You used the big words.
I did.
Well, my third one is one that I'm pretty sure no one's, maybe a few people have heard of. It's called Emily's Away. It's a free indie game on Steam. If you grew up with the advent of MySpace and AIM clients, this is the game that will leave you in shambles. It's a simple text-based game that'll give you more nostalgia than you know how to deal with. Like, seriously, I finished this game and I was just like immediately drowning in my own tears, my dog trying his hardest to console me. This game made me break down and go on an hour-long tirade sending messages to all my old high school friends just to see how they were doing. I have never played a game that has left me in this state of intense nostalgia, sadness, excitement for the future, excitement for my friends that I don't keep up with much anymore. And the first game is free on Steam. The second game is just as good. They're like really intense romance stories that really make you care for these characters that you don't even get to see. They're just text on screen, but it's so incredibly good. And the third one's coming out soon, and I'm more stoked than ever.
Yeah, the only thing I remember about this game at all is just like getting a kind of drunkenly Snapchat from you, just like crying and just being like, I just played this game, man, it was really fucking good. And that's it. So I'm not even gonna touch this one. I'm just gonna trust you on it, and it doesn't seem like it's for me, but it sounds really good. Hey, well, that was a nice little indie game you got there. Let me hit you with another indie game that I played this year and beat.
Hat
My
in
number
Time.
two. My number
Not Hat
two.
in Time?
Not Hat in Time.
Is it another hat-based game?
It is Mario Odyssey from a little developer called Nintendo. Oh, fuck.
I haven't heard about them. Tell me more.
Yeah. Well, you know, they've been doing stuff since the 80s. Apparently, they were like a card game. This bit's terrible. So I played Mario Odyssey. I got it with my Switch that I got this year. I don't really play a lot of Mario 3D platformers in particular. I've played some of the 2D ones and they're all right. They're not really like my cup of tea. And so I enjoyed Super Mario Sunshine when I was a kid, but this was really something to like hold me over until I got around to Breath of the Wild. I actually ended up liking this a lot more than I like Breath of the Wild. Not saying I don't like Breath of the Wild by any means, but I don't know, they're just like a little bit too skill-based for me, but this one was so accessible in a way that I really wasn't expecting, especially coming off of the back of probably a game that's actually easy for people who play a lot of platformers, Super Mario 3D World. This was just like this really accessible and beautiful and inspired look at like what Mario as a character could do, like what Mario means, what Nintendo has really done. There's references to Satellovision in this game. Like, it's kind of insane how much just like little pepperings of Nintendo love is there. I found myself being reminded of WarioWare a little bit with how like the hat mechanic works. It's just like every little thing that I could think of that makes Nintendo was here in some fashion.
I just got this game, so I don't really have a whole lot to comment. It's pretty dope. It only, in my mind though, the only hat-based game I need is Hat in Time because there's a DLC where all the seals talk in uwu. I've seen it in action. It is beautiful. Mario, where's your uwu face? That's all I need to know. Anyway, I'll tell you about a character mainstay in video games that does have an uwu face, and that's Master Chief in Halo 3. Yeah, Halo 3 is my...
These segments are getting worse.
Listen, there's a part where he just goes,
outfiring the remaining Halo rings.
and he slips it in there so casually. It's crazy.
I don't know what's going on.
Anyway, this is a series that I'm very late to the party, but I've dove so far into it that I feel like I'm a longtime series fan. It's got a great story. The mechanics are so solid. It's no wonder that this is one of the greatest games of all time. It's an interesting time to be a Halo fan, especially outside of its heyday, but I'm glad I experienced it, and I'm glad I'm now a fan.
Do you feel that you're missing out on some of it by not having the more multiplayer sides easily accessible?
Halo's been a very personal game for me in terms of like one that I almost exclusively associate with single player because it's so good. I feel like I'm missing out on a big chunk, but personally I don't feel like I need the multiplayer.
That's fair. I've been playing video games for a really long time, probably before I could read. This one in particular, I've been playing for years. I used to watch my brother play it, and now I'm an adult. I still play it, but I've never beat it. Just something in my brain never clicked so that I would finish it. I beat Ocarina of Time for the first time, and it's my #1 game because it's gorgeous and beautiful and everything like that. Specifically, I beat it on the 3DS. It is gorgeous and atmospheric and all of the places and all of the ways that it needs to be, while still being goofy and charming and joyous in a childlike way. For a game that's 20 plus years old, it's still very impressive, even if it hasn't aged very well. But I don't really think that the highest rated game on Metacritic really needs my defense.
Wow, what a brave statement to make, Evan. Someone needed to call out this indie game for being one of the best of all time, and you've done it. Congratulations, Evan. Let's give you, hold on, here's a bravest commenter on all of YouTube.
I'm sarcastically waving. Hi, yes, my favorite movie is Spider-Man Homecoming. Yes, I do like really commonly referred to things as being good. No, I do not have any opinions on Star Wars at all. No, yes,
I'm gonna shift from obvious opinions to maybe not so obvious opinions. I've grouped a whole series of games in 4 games into one. I love the Fable series, guys. I played the entire 1 through Fable the Journey this year, and it's a trip, especially because I really don't like high fantasy. This is really my girlfriend's fault because she said that Fable 3 was her favorite game of all time, and well, video games are a great way to learn more about someone, so I played it, and due to my fear of missing out, I had to play them all in order. So I busted out the trusty original Xbox, purchased a guide, and set off.
So, quick editor's note, I have really condensed what I thought about Fable from this because I spoil a lot of this future episode that I'd like to write about it. Most of the games that I have played this year are in some way, shape, or form related to a future big episode, so I've condensed this and the Halo segment pretty significally. So if you want my thoughts and opinions on the entire Fable franchise and the entire Halo franchise, stay tuned.
Cool.
Well, there it goes. Our top 6 and bottom 6 games of the year.
You messed that up.
What? How did I mess that up? You outro then.
Okay. Well, on that incredibly long-winded note of Dakota spoiling his Fable episode, we've got a lot
Wow,
of
Evan, you
big
already ruined the outro. Congratulations. You played yourself. Let me finish this goddamn episode. Hit like, subscribe, tell us what you think in the comments below. We really enjoyed doing this video. Expect big dope ass shit from us in the future.
This is better. This is better.
I always do the good outros. That's why I'm doing it now. Anyway, thanks y'all for 400 subscribers. It's been a ride. We kind of just picked this up in media res after I moved and all that nonsense. So for all of you that stuck around, for all of you that are here now, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We love doing this. We're excited to do it more in the coming year. Bigger, better, 1117 Studios, baby, forever. Not really. We all got it. We're gonna die sometime.
Are you okay?
All right, end in 3, 2, 1.